Call meeting to order. Shelley, can you roll call, please?
Here. District 4, Vice Mayor Stapleton.
Here.
District 5, Councilman Gonzalez. Here. District 6, Councilman Shipley is excused. Mayor Marcia.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. She's running some information.
The blessings that we need to release. Members of this community and citizens of this country. We're grateful for those who serve to keep the community safe and to keep the operations of the city moving. We're grateful for those represented here who give their time to help provide the direction for our community, the city. We ask thy blessings on these proceedings this evening. They may be in accordance to thy will and that of benefit to our community and the citizens that live here. Please watch over all those who may be in need of a special blessing of health or comfort. In these things we pray. Amen.
Amen. Yes, Mr. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Summary of current events, Mariano, we start with you, Donna.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As per usual, Mother Nature has shifted gears on us, so it's right into a fire season. So I need to caution you all. It's been a wet winter and a lot of weeds out there, and you won't know where the next fire will pop up. And vis-a-vis the event over at the dump, it can happen anywhere. So be aware of your surroundings. Know that it's another nasty fire season. And if you see something, say something. I called in that fire right from my backyard of my house. I had a heads up that the smoke was flaring somewhere, and dispatch said units are on the scene and looking at fire at the dump. So, you all be careful out there and deal with it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to kind of shoot my own family's horn tonight. It's a proud moment for a dad. But this past weekend, I attended a ceremony for my daughter, who is in her third year of pharmacy school. And this is the moment of her schooling where she has completed all of her didactics, which is all the classroom study. And now she's moving on to rotations and hands-on training. It's called the white coat ceremony, where they actually don the white coats on the pharmacists that are. So I'd like to give a shout out to my daughter Leah. She graduated from Globe High School. She started first grade here and then she went to Miami for a few years up to her junior high. And then decided to come to high school in Globe. So she's a freshman through her senior year at Globe. So she's had bounced back and forth between two school districts. She's a local. And proud moment for Dad, proud moment for Globe High School. We've got one of our own entry pharmacy industry in our society. So, Leah, congratulations. Thank you.
Mike.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I just want to commend the cleanup crew who worked here last weekend. I think Michelle did that team out there, and 41.6 tons and 102 tires, 50,000 pounds of mixed glow metal. Just amazing job to clean up the city. I was doing my mile down there in front of Walmart, so I wasn't able to participate, but I did participate that way. And we got 4 bags of garbage. That's all I have. Congratulations, Michelle.
Mike. Thank you, Mayor.
I was informed, actually last night that, from a good friend of mine, partner, Joe Bacamante, he's gonna have to put Evo down on Thursday. She's losing all of her functions and what have you, and 14 years old. So Joe is absolutely distraught. So I've been talking to him every night since yesterday. But anyway, I'd just like to read a little bit about Evo, if you don't mind, and then take a moment of silence afterwards.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, this is the
Joe's dog.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, Joe's nursing dog.
Yes. Yeah, he lost Frank 10 years ago, and Evo is on her. So I would like to take a moment of silence tonight in honor of K9 Evo. Evo is approaching her final days here on Earth after years of service with the city. K9 Evo began her service with the City of Globe Fire Department around 2014. Evo received all her training here locally in our community due to the dedication of her handler, Captain Joe Bacamante, as well as the strong network of K9 handlers in this area. In addition to being trained in excelling protection, Evo also received training in article searches and was deployed multiple times in support of the local law enforcement. During her time with the city, Evo was deployed on incidents at the local county, state, and federal level. During a special ceremony, K9 Evo and Captain Bacamante were recognized by the FBI for their efforts in helping solve a homicide case on the Navajo reservation. K9 Evo and Captain Bacamante were also known throughout the area for their efforts in fire prevention at all the schools. Evo and Captain Bacamante served more than 11 years as a team before they retired together back in 2021. So, thank you, Chief Robinson, for giving me this information. And at this time, I'd like to do a moment of silence for Evo. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Just a reminder, the third is the first Friday. I know they've been working also, I see Rob and Judy Bersay here, they've been working on the celebrating the firefighter memorial. So there'll be activities done at 6 o'clock at the courthouse, and the fire department involved in this annual event. The May 5th is the actual celebration. We do have a proclamation that we will be reading in accordance with the bells across America. So that will be the first Friday of next week, a week from Friday. And just a reminder, downtown cruise starts at 5:30. Anybody interested in participate, come down. And Mike, just to follow up on your garbage pickup, I read a total of 83,180 pounds. A lot of stuff that is from our community. Great. That's all I have, Paul.
Mr. Mayor, Council, in interest of time, I have no comments. Thank you.
We'll go to the first community call of the public. Do we have anybody online? I have no speak cards up here. Okay. We'll go to special presentations. They do have 4 proclamations that we'll be reading. The first one is the proclamation for May 11, 2024, National Association of Letter Carriers Food Drive on behalf of the Globe City Council. So I'll read this one. Whereas the National Letter Carriers Branch 704 represents all letter carriers in Tucson and many other post offices in southern Arizona. And whereas NLC Branch 704, the United States Postal Service of the AFL-CIO, have joined together with local community food banks for the past 16 years for the annual Letter Carrier Food Drive.
And whereas the food drive is initiated in 1991 to assist the many community food banks of food pantries and homeless shelters throughout the nation. And whereas the food drive effort is a community-based endeavor, and all food items donated remain within the local community to serve the needs of the community. And whereas the year 2023 NALC Branch 704 letter carriers collected nearly 300,000 pounds of food and 20,000 in cash in southern Arizona. And whereas, now therefore, I, Al Damaris, and our City Globe, on behalf of the Globe City Council, do hereby proclaim May 11, 2024 to be National Association of Letter Carriers Food Drive. We don't have anybody from the post office that will get this proclamation to them. The next one is presentation and proclaim the week of May 3rd, 2024, National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend on behalf of the Globe City Council. So I'll read that proclamation. In the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend proclamation, whereas the United States Congress and the President of the United States have designated the day of the annual National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Service as a day to honor firefighters and emergency services personnel who have sacrificed their lives to save others by lowering the American flag on all federal buildings to half-staff. And whereas an average of 80 firefighters courageously make the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty each year. And whereas firefighters and emergency services personnel play an essential role in the protection of lives and property in our local community. And whereas the National Firefighters Memorial Weekend marks the weekend following International Firefighters Day 2024. And whereas it is of major importance that we increase our efforts to reduce deaths and injuries and property losses from fire. Therefore, I, Al Damaris, of the City Globe, on behalf of the Globe City Council, Arizona, now call upon all citizens of the City Globe and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the day, May 3rd, 2024, in recognition of the patriotic service and dedicated efforts of our fire and emergency service personnel by lowering American flags on all buildings to half-staff. I respectfully encourage all of the same organizations as well as the citizens of Globe to remember all fire and emergency personnel who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service of their community and to pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes by participating in the battles across America for fallen firefighters. So in witness thereof, with the seal of the City Globe, sign this proclamation on this 23rd day of April, 2023, on behalf of the Globe City Council. So I present that to Rob and Judy for they're the ones heading this memorial or this firefighter process, and they have been working with the city to set up the event for that day.
Mr. Mayor, I've had a long career in emergency management, and the headquarters for training for emergency managers in the nation is in Emmitsburg, Maryland. It's at a former Catholic college, but also there is the National Fire Academy, where advanced training is supplied to firefighters from across the nation and around the world. As I said, it's a beautiful campus, and strolling through the college campus is the National Firefighters Memorial. And each state is listed there with the names of fallen firefighters, with that. And every time I've gone, I've made it a point to go there, so that I can carry that memory with me. That nationally, firefighters have a place to educate themselves, to train themselves, and to remember those that have fallen in line of duty. There's also another memorial for 9/11 dedicated to firefighters. It's just a beautiful thing, and a very fitting place to honor firefighters. If you ever get the chance, you should go to Emmitsburg now. It's beautiful. Just a beautiful area. It's about 15 miles away from Camp David. And that's where they have choppers when you hear the president goes to Camp David. But it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we have proclamation, April 2024 of Fair Housing Month on behalf of the Globe City Council. So read that proclamation, whereas the Civil Rights of 1968 and the Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1989 prohibit discrimination in housing and declare it a national policy to provide for fair housing in the United States within constitutional limits. And whereas the principle of fair housing is not only national law and national policy, but a fundamental human concept and entitlement for all Americans. And whereas discriminatory housing practices underdetermine the strength and vitality of America and its people. And whereas April was traditionally been designed as Fair Housing Month in the United States. Now therefore, I, on behalf of the City Globe Council, I, Mayor Algamaros, do hereby proclaim April as Fair Housing Month.
Very happy to accept that on behalf of the City of Globe.
My apologies, I did not introduce the Executive Director of CAG Central Arizona, Governor Andrea. She was here. And item D is present proclamation May 5th through May 11, 2024 as the 55th Annual Professional Municipal Clerk Week on behalf of the Globe City Council. Whereas the Office of Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world. And whereas the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the Office of Professional Municipal Clerk provides a professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of the government at other levels, and whereas professional municipal courts have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. Whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on the functions of local government and community. Whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and annual meetings in their state, provincial, county, and intergovernmental professional organizations. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk. Now therefore, the Globe City Council recognizes the week of May 11th through May 5th through May 11th, 2024 as Professional Municipal Clerk Week, and further extend appreciation to our professional municipal clerk, Shelley Salazar, and Deputy Clerk Lisa Fletcher, and to all professional municipal clerks for the vital service they perform and the exemplary dedication to the community they represent. I'd like to present this to Shelley and Lisa, and if we could stand behind them up here and just get a picture of that.
Yeah.
We appreciate everything you guys do. Get behind up here. Good.
Thank you. Item E, as part of the budget process, the Globe City Council will hear a presentation by Pat Walker and Tina Allen providing fiscal year 24-25 general fund revenue projections and discuss budget-related questions.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we have, we have our chief financial consultant, Pat Walker, and Tina Allen, our budget analyst. This is ongoing part of our budget development for the FY25 budget coming up here. And so we want to do, at this portion, we want to present to you the general fund revenues that we'll be using as part of the budget development. Tina, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And Mr. Mayor, members of council, also we have questions at the end, and Pat Walker's here in case we have any questions that you would like to have answered. So, Tina, go ahead.
Okay, you have the slide presentation up there?
Yes. Can you see that? Or we have the wrong one.
Yeah, that's CDBG.
Oh,
Say, it doesn't look like the one I've got.
yeah.
There we go.
Okay, here we go.
Very good. So today we're just going to present some general fund revenues. If you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. I don't know, Paul, did you want to make any more comments at the beginning first, or do you want me to go ahead and get started?
The only additional comments, Mayor, from the late February budget presentation, we talked about fund balance, and you had some questions, responded to those questions, and that was what was passed out to you tonight. If you have those, we are going over the projections for the revenues. The actual fund balance information has not changed significantly, but we're not done yet doing all of the due diligence we need to do to get the fund balance that we'll be using in the budgeting process. We still have some areas that we're working with Dennis Osich to make sure that our numbers are as tight as possible. But I did want to offer you those the responses in there. If after the presentation, if you have any questions on that, myself, Tina, Pat Walker, we can kind of respond to that if need be. We'll also have that memo for as you go on to the budget process. Anytime we can talk about that. But I just wanted to, I owed you that memo. I want to get that back to you before we have the next presentation. But yeah, fund balance is something that we're nailing down. Our projection that we have right now is consistent, but it's not the final. And we do believe it will get better, or say pretty neutral. There's not much left that can change it, but we want to have the best number possible so we can make the best decisions on how we budget going into 25. But with that, I'd like to go ahead and let Tina do her presentation.
Okay, we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Mayor Gameros, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you again. I have just about 3 or 4 slides I would like to go over council with this evening about general fund revenues, and I'll also cover your property tax rate and levy at the end. Looking at this slide, you can see that I've left the unaudited amounts for fiscal year 22, which at this point are really solid and are headed into the auditors, so that column is still on there. Updated, of course, from what we had when we presented the 24 budget. And there is also a column for the unaudited amounts for fiscal year 23. Those are closer to reality than what was presented back when we did the budget development a year ago as well, but it is still in the process of cleanup, as Paul mentioned. And so the initial appearances, we took in more revenues than we thought we would, but we also had more expenses post than we estimated. So these are the kinds of things that affect the fund balance discussion, and I don't want to get into the weeds about that right now, because we are going to, as he said, nail those numbers down a little bit better. So I'm going to talk mostly about the last 3 columns, which is the fiscal year 24 adopted budget for this year that we're in right now, the current estimate to end this year, and the proposed budget for fiscal year 25. I left the fund balance carry forward, so if you're trying to match up to the adopted budget, there were 2.9 million or 2.4 was the carry forward budget. But because that's not an operational revenue, we're just trying to talk about the operational revenues right now. So I just left that off this chart so that we could kind of have some apples to apples. It's the last thing that we usually bring into the revenue equation is the fund balance carry forward. I do have two more specific slides to the first and third line, the taxes and the intergovernmental, because those are the ones that are changing the most. So I'm going to just hold off on those till we get to the next two slides. So I'll just cover a few minor things. You'll see that the franchise fees are forecasted at about 370 right now, but I still left the proposed budget at 330,000, which is consistent with what we brought in 23. Franchise fees can get coded incorrectly sometimes. That's one of the things I'd like to see cleaned up a little better before we finalize this number for fiscal year 25. And I will reiterate, this is the first blush look at this. These numbers can go up and down a little bit based on any additional information we get in the next month. But again, you will always see me build a very conservative revenue budget and expenditure budget. Charges for services are growing, and that is mostly because we are capturing the revenue that's going to be earned from the Gila School District for those 2 additional school resource officers. So that revenue is going up, but obviously we added those resource officers in 23, so it's offsetting the expenses that we're experiencing there. Miscellaneous revenues is pretty much static. The $1,000 drop was just Blue Cross Blue Shield rebates that, the current forecast is very low on that. So I just dropped that by 1,000. That's another number that includes interest and some other revenues that we might tighten up in the next month. But again, that's for the forecast right now and the proposed budget, it's fairly static. So this is very much a preliminary look at the revenues. It might be modified up or down a little, but it's, my view is be conservative rather than fall short of your goals. If we can move to the next slide, I will talk about city tax revenues. Okay, let me move my slide so I can see it. So the tax revenues continue to be strong. The fiscal year 24 adopted budget was built on a forecast based on the partial year of the 1% increase in 23. So we are actually growing the proposed budget over the adopted budget by almost $990,000. But you'll see that the increase over the current estimate is a moderate growth of about 1.5%. So that's the difference between the 7.4 million adopted budget, the anticipated 8.3 for this year, and a proposed budget of 8.4 for next year. The PSPRS is just a proportion of that. So as the sales tax grows, the PSPRS 0.3% grows as well. The bed tax is somewhat reduced based on a little bit lower receipts this year than we had hoped for. I know this is a very fluid number because it's based on hotel occupancy and rental occupancies and things like that. So if you get a major mine construction next year, you can see that number really balloon. And if you'll recall, when I proposed this budget, when we did the adopted budget for 24, I said the 300,000 was a stretch because whatever number we put in this revenue line is matched by the expense line to the community organizations and the bed tax expenses. So if we put $1 million there and we had $1 million expense, it doesn't really impact your fund balance. So I've just dropped that down a little bit more conservative, but I think it's more in line with what we're seeing right now. And I do have another slide about the property tax. So I'll talk about that after I finish the next slide, which is intergovernmental. Okay, intergovernmental, again, you've heard it's taking the largest hit. Sales tax, or the transaction privilege tax, TPT, did actually increase by about $23,000, but the VLT tax and the URS, here we go. I got to keep my slide up with yours. I apologize. I did some subtotals on this because those first three, the state sales tax, the VLT, and the urban revenue sharing, are all intergovernmental revenues that we get our estimates from the Arizona League. So while the sales tax is up about 23,000, the VLT and the urban revenue sharing together dropped by a total of 383,000. So the net loss from just those three lines was over 360,000, and I did put that math off on the side so you could see that. And that's 320,000 less than our current estimate for this year, and considerably, and then 360,000 less from the adopted budget. Last year, I didn't budget any of the Prop 207 because none of it had posted at the time that I developed the budget, but now it does look like some is coming in, so I did put 70,000 back in for that. And again, the fire department revenue is down a little bit. That's just an estimate based on a guesstimate about wildfire revenue. So overall, in intergovernmental, we are down $305,000 budget to budget. It's also, but it's also a decrease from our current forecasted budget of about 136,000. But this is really primarily due to the impact of the urban revenue sharing and the flat tax rate at the state level. Our city tax growth is only partially offsetting this loss. You can go, so as a review, if you go to the next slide, this is just the same as the first slide, just showing all those numbers together. And I will then go on. I just wanted to see all of those. And finally is the general fund property tax and levy. So without a truth and taxation notice and hearing, which is our goal, we don't want to increase. You've made a commitment to the voters not to increase the levy, and keeping the levy the same for the tax on, except for the tax on new construction. The rate will drop from 1.2255 per $100 of assessed valuation to 1.2221 for assessed valuation. So again, your levy does increase from $538,328 to $541,935, but that $3,600 increase, $3,593, is only the tax rate on the new construction, which is the value of the new construction. There is $293,988. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions on that? So that is the property tax levy, $541,935, that was on the previous slide. So going forward, what's next is that this month, at the end of this month and May, I'm continuing departmental meetings. We will be paring down departmental expectation to these proposed revenues. We still have a lot of work to do on the enterprise fund budget developments, and my current budget calendar still has a rather aggressive tentative budget adoption date of May 21st. We did not meet that early date last year, but with good fortune, we will hit it. And if we have more issues and more things come up to discuss, that may get bumped back. But right now, that is our proposed tentative budget adoption date, with public hearing and final budget adoption at the end of June, and the adoption of the levy in July 23rd.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, a couple of highlights, and Shelley, are you driving the slides, or? Yeah, can you go back to this, on the property tax? We, like say, we have made that commitment 2 years ago when we made the adjustment on sales tax, that we would keep our property tax neutral, we would not raise the levy. Like say, we adjusted the tax rate actually down a smidge to accommodate for the appraisals, which are up a smidge. And then we do have growth in sales and property tax because of new construction. We hope to see a lot more of that when Hill Street comes online and some others. But we are maintaining the council's commitment that we leave property tax static, and we have done that. Now, it doesn't account for other property tax changes that may happen within the people's property tax bill. But again, we're living up to that commitment. And then, Shelley, can you go back to this, the slide to the breakout of sales tax? So one more. the other is. On this, I wanted to point out, adopted budget, FY '24 city sales tax, itself, and that's after the removal of the 3%, which is the PSPRS and then the bed tax. We had proposed $7,469,002. Estimated coming in is going to be $8,331,326. That's a significant increase. We then put about a 1.5 growth on that rate, so we're going to be budgeting to that 8.4 million there. That shows us a conservative in how we adopt sales tax numbers. We've outperformed our projections. We hope to do that also. But you know, there's you want to be conservative and then take advantage of that in the end. So I think that I wanted to point out on this slide. And then you saw the other slide where revenue sharing, which is income taxes collected by the state and shared to with the cities. The year and a half ago, they added the 2.5 flat tax, and all cities have taken a hit on that. We're taking that hit about $350,000. I'm sorry, yeah, $350,000, which is it. So those are the highlights, and that's what we'll be budgeting to. I think in general, it's you know, it looks good. It's not perfect, but we're on the right track. And so with that, if there's any other questions you have on this or anything budget related before we move on.
Any questions from staff? Any questions, Paul?
Okay, and then just real quick, Pat, any last comments before we end the presentation?
No, I think this is a good start. The first step of the budget process is to give you the financial revenue forecast for the roadmap. You can't figure out how much you're going to spend unless you know how much you're going to bring in. And so again, you know, we try to be conservative but realistic in these projections, and we monitor them all year long and then make sure that you're meeting those projections. And if whatever reason you're not, we'll be back to council and inform you of that. But no, I think this is all good news. I think that the only bad news is the urban revenue sharing, as Paul had mentioned. They did increase the proportionate share cities receive of the pie from 15 to 18. However, it did not offset a lot of the result of the 2.5 flat tax. So again, we reflected that in our projections, and we're feeling pretty good moving forward.
So a couple of questions I had on the fiscal year projection, 7.4 million, and 25, 8.4. Does that include the 1% sales tax increase too?
Yes, that is now fully implemented. It came in August and September of 22, and so this last year, the FY 24, which is within July of 23 to coming up, the 1% is fully implemented in every aspect except for food for home consumption. That remains at 2.3. Everything else for the city is at 3.3. There's except lease, commercial leases is by law locked at 2.0.
And a question on the 0.3% PSPRS. Do we have an estimate of our time frame as when that will be paid off?
We'd have to dig into the actuaries, and I think they provide a timetable. We'd always been kind of on a 20-year glide path. Pat, do you have any? I mean, they have a 20-year payoff. I don't know. I think we're like year 17 or something left. You know?
Yes, they do. Every time you pay your PSPRS, you do pay a portion of the unfunded liability on top of the contributions that the town or the city has been making. So they do have it. I think it's 2035 or 2038, isn't it? that it's gonna be completely paid off, but you're gonna be quicker than that because you've made some advance payments. So one of the things that we're working on is a reconciliation of how much money you brought in by the .3, how much you paid out, and what's left to it, and we're gonna give that as a separate report to council.
And then just one more comment on the 2.5 flat tax. I think we were told, or made to believe by our legislators or representatives that 82% more in state share revenues, that would actually equalize out, but it doesn't. It hasn't. Pat, do you think that'll ever equalize, or?
Yeah, because they're projecting, they gave us a 5-year projection of it, and they said, when I talked to the league the last time about it, they said that overall, because it's 2 years ago from collections and with COVID, the income taxes that were paid, it went down anyway. So, again, the best projections they could do, to figure out where it would equalize is 18%, but maybe what they didn't consider was the decrease in the amount of income tax that you're taking in. But about the 3rd year out, we got a decline this year, next year, and then we'll start going back up again. So hopefully, maybe they'll even do better than what they project for 5 years. When you start to get out 4 or 5 years, the crystal ball gets a little bit fuzzier.
In Mr. Mayor, members of council, the concept is if you charge less in income tax, that money will be spent, and you'll see a corresponding increase in sales tax collection. I don't know if you've seen that statewide, and I'm not going to pretend to explain all the different aspects of our what we're doing right with city sales tax, but there's a combination of things going on that allow us to keep up with the cost of running the city. It's important that those we've been investing to grow our sales tax base. That's our #1 source of funds. It's been paying off, but also it's more expensive to run a city nowadays. And the city of Globe expects elevated services now, and that's a good thing. But we will keep up and keep working to move the needle. Tina, Pat, thank you very much for the presentation and update.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Next, we have the consent calendar, and matters listed of the consent calendar considered to be routine will be enacted by one motion, one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to consideration of consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to remove a public hearing item for separate consideration. Members of the council and or staff may remove any item for separate consideration. Item A, consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule to allow action on the balance of the consent agenda. Accounts payable, $350,730.01. Consideration of approval of council minutes, March 26, 2024. Consideration of contracts under $25,000, and consideration to update signatures to number GF-24-61-05020 project partnership agreement PPA between the City of Globe and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to receive funding initiated by U.S. Representative Greg Statton for $2.1 million for the replacement of the city water main from Arizona Department of Transportation facility to the fairground entrance, and requiring the dedication of an additional 25% match, $700,000 by the City of Globe. Is there anybody from staff, public, or council wishing to remove any of these items separately? Mr. Mayor, I think we did want to pull item. Would you like to pull item 4C? Yeah, just to give us a brief update. I think we've seen this before, but just to understand why it's back again. So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I request that we pull item 4C on the consent agenda. Motion is second to approve consent agenda as read minus item 4C. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Mr. Mayor, members of council, do you want to read item C again, or do you want to reference it? So now, consideration to update signatures to number GF-24-61-05020 project partnership agreement between the City of Globe and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to receive funding initiated by U.S. Representative Greg Statton for $2.1 million for the replacement of the city water main, the Arizona Department of Transportation facility
to the fairgrounds entrance and requiring dedication of 25% match, $700,000 by the city of Globe.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we've been working very closely with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They have a very, thorough report process, and with the initiation of this, with the signing of this, we will be finally issued the money, the go-ahead to start spending the money, but they're requesting updated signed MOU documents, or I think the partnership agreement. And so, this is the same item, there's nothing changed, it's not an additional $700,000. Same item as on November, just to have it signed with a date in April of 2024. And so by approving this, you would allow the re-signing of the same document.
So the language hasn't changed from the first document?
No change in language. Bill, we emailed Bill Sims and says, I know I've seen this before. It's like, it's exact same. Louise, anything? Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Yeah, in effect, what's happening is that this document was signed back in November 18th, when it was approved for signatures, and we sent it back to the court. But just, about a month ago, I received a phone call from Mr. Toro, and who is the project manager for this, agreement. And he said that they needed updated signatures. The document is exactly the same. Even Shelley reviewed it, and she was asking me, why do we need to sign it again? It's the same document. But it is just because they want an updated signature, and from here it goes to Coleman, and he will sign it, and then they will set up a meeting to tell us what the steps we need to take after that. But the document is exactly the same one. Okay.
Thank you. Louise. No, Mayor. 2.1 million. And Mr. Mayor, members of council, again, I'd like to thank Representative Stanton for his help in bringing this money to us. As we water infrastructure, it's going to help get reliable water service out to the Northeast Corridor. So it's really important. And staff is really excited to start working towards this project.
If I could just add to the general public that this is one of those victories that the city obtained when we went to Washington, D.C. Lobby with our lobbyists for some dollars of the bill. And this was one of the things, $2.1 million. So it's important to know that, because the trips to Washington are not just leisure trips, they're working trips, the mayor, council, staff. Good job, staff.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on this, Mr. Mayor. Our emergency corridor will be affected by this. And in recent weeks, we've had discussions with the developer in that area. And so it points to our resolve to continue to improve that area, and this is one of the fruits of that. So we want to make sure the public knows that we are preparing for that future with security funds that are needed, but in order to make the Northeast Corridor be prepared for that future. And I'm pleased that this is moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no other comments or questions, I motion to approve item 4C of the consent agenda.
Motion second for approval of item 4C from the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Next, we have new business. And item 5A is a public hearing and discussion of fiscal year 24 community development block grant. The city will be receiving approximately $225,123. So I'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this point. For presentation, we have representatives from Central Arizona government also to explain the process.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Angela Gatto, and I am the Special Projects Coordinator for Central Arizona Governments. Tonight's hearing is for public input regarding possible projects for consideration for the 2024 CDBG grant cycle. The City of Globe is expected to receive approximately $225,123 in FY 2024 federal CDBG funds from the Arizona Department of Housing. All proposed regional projects must meet one of three national objectives, which are benefit low to moderate income persons in the area, alleviate slum and blight in the community, or address an urgent need of the town. Examples of possible projects include the following: public infrastructure, such as water, wastewater, certain street improvements, community facilities such as parks, health clinics, libraries, and senior centers, housing, such as owner-occupied or multifamily rehab, public services, such as paying the salary of additional staff person to expand a Head Start program. Only projects identified and listed at tonight's public hearing are eligible to be submitted for consideration as a project during the next hearing, which will be held on May 28th, 2024 at 6 p.m. At that time, the City Council will select a final project for these funds. At this time, we need to identify the city's current needs for potential projects, and we are open to suggestions and questions from anyone present tonight.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'd like to call on Linda, who's zooming in tonight, to kind of talk about the council's process on the projects that we are doing that, or did I, on the process. Linda, you there?
I am. Thank you, Paul. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing me to zoom into our meeting tonight. So, to give a recap of how we got to these 5 proposed projects, and we're not limited to these, but these were driven by the conversation and dialogue that happened in February with Council's retreat, taking a look at our strategic action plan and knowing about the dollar amount that we would be receiving, and how these dollars could be most impactfully used to drive community priorities. And so these 5 projects were identified through that conversation, and that was brought forward to our work group, and staff presented these. There was actually 4 that came out of the work group conversation, and one that kind of we really did mean to mention in the work group, but it's been something that's been on our SAP for several years, and that's to improve ADA access to City Hall, the restrooms, council chambers, and of course the main entrance. And so, may I please see the 5 projects? Did you want to talk to those 5 items, Paul?
Yeah, can you put
this time?
John, do you want to jump up there and help with this part? Mayor, these are, you're not bound by these. These are suggestions from the process we have so far, but all 5 should be replaced by anything that this council would like to put up there. But we did run this through the work.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you tonight. One of the things I do want to go over when we speak of the dollar amount that the City of Globe would be acquiring with this grant, actually, but is also we would actually be taking off for fees for project management, which is really important, which we put with previous CDBG grants. We found out how important that is because we have contractors and anything that may come up and we may have questions. So the dollar amount will be agreed on at a later date once we receive the grant. As far as fees, that's to be worked out. Also making sure that we're in compliance with the grant fund as far as Davis-Bacon laws and such. So one of the first topic on this list that we have here is ADA improvements. As some of you already have heard around the community center area. A few weeks ago, we had a presentation with the Rick Engineering as far as sidewalk and improvements, and part of that design was actually going into this same project. Now, we won't be combining projects because we can't do that, but one would actually could echo the other as far as ADA requirements and upgrades. It could be as far as the parking lot upgrade on the asphalt part of it, which the Rick Engineering description of that project actually is a sidewalk and enhancements for the ADA around the bathrooms and to the Ramada that didn't include the asphalt. So that could be also for consideration on this project. So when we're talking about the improvements, it's just that. I mean, we have multiple requests in that area, as I previously discussed in the prior meeting, is ADA compliance. So it's sidewalks, parking spots, and a possible lighting for enhancement in that area, because we have a lot of evening events. We have a lot of youth groups, and if you've ever been up there in the evenings, it's pretty significant as far as parking issues, and we want to make it safe for all, even crosswalk-wise, for staff crossing the parking lot and lighten some of those areas up. The second one we actually have is the Rogue building. That's alongside of the library. As you know, we've discussed this project previously, and we've done some mitigation previous from the issues that we had, but there's multiple levels of this project. There would be the initial demo that we would have to look at. There also have to be, there's a wall that actually joins a business behind the property. So would have to be some design incorporated into that possibly, and make sure that it's secure, and once upon where we're moving the building. And then there's a property owner that actually is adjoining to the Brooks building itself, which actually, the building is actually the barrier between the two properties. So we'd also have to look at that and in the design phase. So there's significant dollar amounts that would have to be considered on this project, but I believe it's a good project also to consider. This would not include the pavement or any asphalt work, because that would definitely exceed the dollar amount that we're looking at right now. You'd probably have to look at a granite, just like we did around the TP on the opposite side, and do some compaction there just to level it off temporarily until we do another funding source. The third project we have, where we have ADA compliance, Round Mountains, one of our gems. Every year, we get significant visitors, and it's due for some upgrades as well. We're kind of keeping a lot of the same theme as ADA compliance, because there's areas there that many people go up there. There's a closed-in gate that not many people have. It's not that accessible. There's some design work that would have to do off parking lot, and there could even be some shade structure added to close to the entranceway, so people wouldn't have to. It is a hiking trail, it's understood, but there's some upgrades. If you've been out there recently, whether it be the roof or the bathrooms specifically, some work to be done there. And that, like I said, that could also do some sidewalk from the main parking lot into a shared, space. Originally, when the Round Mountain building was designed, previous mayor, Stan Gibson, always had hoped for a gift store. That's what he told me that was originally there's an empty room there that's never been utilized. The hope would be actually possibly to set up a table and stuff, so you're actually gonna get some shade, and we could build some sidewalk tying into that, so it'd be accessible and finally used after all these years. Right now it's currently just locked up and not used at all. So is any questions so far? So I'm just kind of rolling through these.
Ready, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that. I do think it back up a little bit on the road building.
What is the master plan for that project?
I don't believe originally they were going to take that down. There's been two versions of it that I know of. One, the conversation is to take it down and expand the library itself, to design that and expand the library. But because of the parking issues that we've had, then there's also been discussion. So we were going to actually make where the road building is, the parking lot, and where the TP site on the north end, north corner of it, that's where the extension of the library was going to be. For their kind of like what they're looking to do, the project now, the shade structure, and expand that footprint. I don't know the current project.
Linda, do you have any on the community benefit of the road building demo? Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, it gets us one step closer to see the possible expansion of the library. And the library committee did go through a strategic planning process, I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago. And there have been initial renderings done for the redevelopment of the library. So this would check off the box. It would get us, again, one step closer to being able to go to design and engineering.
Okay, thank you.
Wait.
I sit on I represent council in the library community. Those people over there get very adamant about wanting to see that library expanded. I think, 5 or 6 years ago, there was a big move and there's a drawing of the children's library. Obviously, we have to do something updated. But there's some issues with the property lines over there. Those got to be straightened out. Rail does a heck of a good job providing programs. I've been listening to the calendar here. And, the benefit to the community, I think would be a lot better. Right now, that's just a old Forest Service office building. And they're pretty much packed up and there's no room for expanding. I think it would be a benefit to the community. Of course, that's my plan.
Mr. Mayor, Mayor, Council, before we get too far along, I'd like to have both Linda and John talk about the last two.
Linda, did you want to chime in, or do you want me to go forward?
Whoever.
I'll go. I'll go.
John, go ahead.
Okay.
Follow up.
So City Hall, as you know, with the previous CDBG funding, we did the playground equipment and the lighting, and we did all that front sidewalk. Part of that process, if you remember, there was the handrails and there was the steps that kind of limited some of the traffic and having some issues there. So we upgraded that sidewalk. We brought it to a level just to eliminate that hazard. So that was one of the preliminary things we looked to do. Most recently, in some of our quality of life discussions, it's been brought up as far as the doors here to our council chambers, the doors to the City Hall main entrance. Those are not, they're not very friendly for anybody. So that would be one of the enhancements to doing, so it would be a push button style setup, and we usually refer to an ADA compliance, but I know it would help many residents and, even staff coming through those doors a lot of times. It would be that type of enhancement. And then it'd also be looking towards, of course, our magistrate and our counter help up front in water billing. There's some counters that actually need to be upgraded too. So this work would be working towards some of those avenues to correct those issues. I say issues, but they're things that we're hoping to incorporate into a project, and this would be that type of project. And of course, the bathrooms. As we're having our council meetings and anybody's gone through these doors out here, they're not friendly as well. They're, building was built in 1973, so they're pretty heavy, and often we have issues coming in and out of these same doors. So those bathroom doors and the bathrooms would also be brought up to where they need to be. The last item I have would be the Globe Head Start. Recently, we did some site inspections with the playground equipment. We're currently, Head Start is utilizing that building when they had their flooding issue, and they've been utilizing that. Now, they bring their kids to this park here when they have their group meetings and stuff, but they're actually just using that as office space. But at some point, we all know that childcare is an issue in our area. That's been a big concern for many. And this would actually, if we look to do this type of project, it would be doing some enhancements. The playground equipment and stuff that's actually there is outdated. I was told it could probably be grandfathered to some degree, but it still needs to be upgraded. There's a lot of the foam board and the sponge pad fall zones, they need to be upgraded. So some area like in those things, and then possibly the roof or some of the interior work that would have to be brought up to date to meet ADA requirements, but also it'd have to be state certified
and DES certified if we chose to reach out to utilize that building and put out an RFP for that for use, for public use.
And then, Linda, the community benefits to all of these, just to wrap up comments before council starts their discussion on the benefits for the citizens?
We wanted to start at the top, of course, with the community center complex. We get year-round usage. I think we could safely say that we would impact tens of thousands of users by investing in that particular project. Our concern there, though, because we do have to look at both sides of that, is that this one may not be as shovel ready as some of the other ones. That we may not have the amount of dollars it would take to really see a completed project, but we could phase it and do this incrementally, and that's true with any of these. The road building demo, we believe that, as John stated, we can demo the building, do so safely, but of course, asphalt is like gold, so we wouldn't be able to do that, but we could put granite as on the other side. Bathrooms, John touched upon that very, very well. With a lot of these around recreation, we're just seeing such an uptick in the use of all of our recreational facilities, not just by, of course, our residents and regional community members, but also by visitors, because we've really made a concerted effort to drive tourism to Globe through our recreational amenities. The fourth item, the City Hall improvements. This needs to be done. This is a must do. Some of the other ones are definitely need to do, but this one, kind of in our eyes, this would be that low hanging fruit. We've been able to really leverage some investment that we've had through some community members and from previous CDBG funding to make City Hall more inviting, more accessible. And this would really just kind of tie the project up very, very nicely. We still have a lot of people who come in and pay their bills in person, and we're seeing a tremendous uptick in permitting and licensing activity, and that's more bodies through the door. And every single day we see people of all ages and abilities struggle to open our doors. So this would really help in that way. So I think the number impacted with the City Hall improvements, that one would rival the community center. And then of course the Head Start building, that we all know we're in a child care crisis. This would allow us to get the building ready for RFP. And I think they're all worthy projects, and we're excited to hear what council may have questions for us on. Thank you.
I just want to add one more thing. On the first list, on the 80 improvements at the community center complex, one of the things that Luis, our engineer, pointed out when this was initially put on there, and after discussion with him, like he stated, with the Rick Engineering, that sidewalk project actually already is covering the ADA requirements. So we don't want to try doubling up, because of course we couldn't do that, but that's why I said possibly the asphalt. But that's, asphalt, of course, we need it everywhere, but specifically, just so you're aware, council, mayor and council, that we wouldn't want to we can't have two projects right, in that line. It's already under design with Rick Engineering. Luis feels that we have where he's confident that the funding source is actually there for this compliance. So that just for your consideration.
Mr. Mayor, I had brought that up in our research from the SAP a few months ago on the City Hall ADA improvements. A citizen came up to me and asked if we could improve that main door to City Hall. They had knee surgery, and they were in that little tackle wheelchair, I'll call it, device, and had a heck of a time just getting into the door. And, while they realized it wasn't ADA compliant, it still was tough on us, so that's a heavy door and a heavy build out. So I promised I'd take a look at that, see if we can improve ADA around here at City Hall. So that's my 2 cents, that's the one I remember the most.
So is this debate time?
This is debate.
Okay. So I've been not only in council for getting close to a decade now, and I've sat in the council chambers for about, I don't know, 6 years prior to me being on council. So I've been in these meetings 95% of the time for that many years. And I've always heard conversations about what we can do with this money, what we should do. I will say that, and please, no disrespect when I talk about EDA. Our community was built 100 years ago. We inherently have ADA issues. ADA was not something that was even thought of or a rule or a law when communities like this were built. Because of that, we're going to have ADA improvement considerations and issues for decades to clean it all up. There's no doubt. No doubt. And that's why I say, no, I'm not discrediting the value of that. When I look at CDBG funding, the purpose, the history, and the conversations, while I was sitting in the chamber and then while I was sitting on the dais, there's one thing that stands out to me. The library has always been on people's minds about improvements or enhancements or expansion, and it never, ever got a first look. It always was conversation behind something else. And I think, when I look at this, what is the greater good of the community? Because we're, $200,000 is a lot of money. But $200,000 in today's world doesn't go very far when it comes to buildings, construction, things like that. And I think it's time that we revisit the worth of our library and promote our library, just like we promote a lot of the other city amenities and services that we have: fire, public works, police. The library does a lot for our community and a lot for those that come into this community to ask about the city. So my pitch this time around, if we can get closer to getting our library in a position that we'd like to see it in, and this money can be used to its fullest, and getting that old building out of the way, checking the box, and getting us closer to a nice life. I'm not saying it's not nice, but more modern library. I think that's the greater. That, in my opinion, has the most benefit to our constituents and to our visitors. So, thank you.
Councilman Rios' comments, because I too believe library is important service in this community. And like I said, I was looking at Monday calendar, she puts out, and we look at, this is children and their parents participating there. Mayor has done an excellent job, and the director previously, she's been coming on the Andrea is very proactive at that library. And I know there's tons of people out there that love to see library or an extended library. And I think you would get that. But I can also say that the other four there are legitimate too.
And Mr. Mayor and Council, the direction from council today is, do we go forward with focusing on 3 to 5 of these? Are these the 5 you want to narrow down, moving off, and then come back into 28 for the final?
So I can actually divide it.
Oh, no, you can't have that tonight. You don't have to decide tonight. You don't have to narrow it down to one.
We're running straws.
Yeah, well, I would have to go to the road building as much as my goal for my illness is to background out. And I'm getting closer. But now I'm not in this state around us. It's a fun place to go to, but it's also challenging. City Hall, I've always complained. And the doors are much better. I mean, if I have to stand by one, I'll stand by one.
Mr. Mayor, members of Council, I think Angela wanted to add something.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind you that also if anybody from the public wants to recommend something, they are able to do that as well.
Angela, with this one, we could send all 5 forward then.
Correct.
There's no picking any of one of them.
No.
We could say.
You could say you want to move with this list, and it doesn't have to be just 5. If you want to move, we'd like to have at least 4 or 5 in case ADOH says something isn't eligible. So.
Just a few comments, actually. I would like to praise and the library is a very important thing. I've been on council for 12 years now. And we've been talking about the library forever. At one point, they moved down on Broad Street.
Well, we talked about the Michelson building. Yeah, that lasted about 2 seconds. Got smacked down pretty quickly.
So that building's been sitting there forever. We remember talking to Mike Humphrey years ago about that. And he said, yeah, it's just been sitting back there and take the AC and stuff because they're there.
And that was 10 years ago.
I've been up there for 12.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so that is, all 5 of them are very important to me. One thing that does stand out, and I have several young employees, and with children, and there is no daycare facility that they can rely on. So,
I think that's a very important one to focus on. I'm not sure that's another mark, correct?
Yes.
And that's sitting there for ever.
Linda, do you remember how long it's been vacant?
4 years.
More?
More than that. Do you remember how long? It was only, I thought, well.
It's been, 3 years.
That's it, 3 years? Anyhow, that's, I see a lot of it. I hear a lot of young parents saying that, it'd be nice to have a daycare facility here. I know we used to do what was down. Where the kids go after school, down Houston. Yeah,
down by
community. Yes.
That's boys and girls.
That's
my grandparents
were down there. But I think that's, to me, those two items are very important. My personal opinion. But all five are. So, the idea that's my piece. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I think all these are real important. I mean, all these five that are here. I know how important the library is to our community. You know, like, and any of these you could support. There's some questions I had on the city hall improvements. What I worry about also is that we have visitors that come downtown and visit. I don't know if there's something when we talk about city hall and doors and bathrooms, how can we make that accessible to the public? I mean, you have people that can't, there's no public restrooms in our downtown area. We really need to provide those somehow with the amount of activity and walking traffic that we're seeing. So, I agree with chamber doors. I mean, the city hall, you know, ADA compliant with the buttons and everything else. Does that include any with the canopies? I know we only went so far with our front out here, and we have no canopies that protect the kids from the shades and stuff like that. Because we do get a lot of people that utilize this park now.
Mayor, council, one of the things actually on this far left here, when you walk out the door, that area was, you originally had an ADA compliant picnic table. With the construction that we did, there was just a regular standard table where we put back in there. And that was the intent, was to put a ramada in that place, because we see a lot of people going out there and they're sitting in the dead sun. So, I mean, I'm sure that could be worked into it, because, I mean, with the table set up and being at that area there, but it would have to be per your direction, which route we want to take in the design. And just to add on the bathrooms, we know that we've had the discussions of additional bathrooms for downtown area. Right now, currently, we're having like the farmers market, we have our First Friday events, we're having these areas open up with the staff that we have now at the pool, we're working weekends. They're actually making the runs through town and keeping these bathrooms open, where traditionally we've closed them off at 5 o'clock and they're locked up for the evening. So they'll be doing that on weekends. And also the discussions, adding additional bathrooms anywhere downtown area. The dollar amount for that type of bathroom and setup actually exceeds the dollar amount that we're looking at. And of course, like you said, the dollars are great to come in an area, but for construction, new construction, the dollar amount's going to be higher.
Yeah, and I guess what we need to consider is where we're going to get the most for our money. You know, and any project that we pick is not going to satisfy the full needs of whatever recommendations these are. So I guess we're all in phases, how we approach them. I kind of go towards completing what we started here at City Hall and trying to get, upgrade our bathrooms, our chambers, and our main doors and stuff like that. I know this project's half done. So I kind of support that, but I support all of them. And the Head Start, the building, this isn't only a city crisis, this is a state and nationwide crisis with childcare, and we have, just in our community, we have over 900 needs for childcare, and we only have about 230 availability. So, that affects the workforce, that affects economic development. But this is something the state needs to take up and start. They're taking money away from childcare in our state instead of adding more money to childcare. So this is something that needs to be fought at the state level, I think, to be able to, even like the Salvation Army used to provide also child care, daycare, but with funding cuts, it just makes it difficult to keep the doors open. So, I like all five. Like I said, I'd like to complete one job that we've started and before we move on.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, is there anything that you expected to be on there that you didn't see? I don't know. Anything you wanted to swap out? I mean, we have a lot of projects identified at the strategic action plan that, like I say, we worked through to kind of get these narrowed down. So there's just so many. I think we got a good cross section. And these are all in the right, not too large, not too small. But I just didn't know it was like, oh, whatever, what about X, Y, Z?
So we have time to, if we think of another one in the next couple of
No, we got to know tonight.
But the public is still free.
Yeah, well, the public, so, Angela, the public can only comment, once council decides on 5, they can only comment on the 5. Go ahead.
If the public wants to bring something forward, it has to be tonight. Only the projects that are talked about tonight can be voted on at the next hearing.
Because it is a public hearing, it is open to the public right now.
You take that.
No comments?
No, if staff has comments on what they'd like to see on here, there's nothing wrong with that.
Thank you, Paul. I'll take that opportunity. Again, you know, these projects were driven through really community-driven needs that council and staff, we really, I feel like we're very in tune with what our residents want and what we need, and, you know, the reality, how do we get there to provide that? All of these projects are absolutely important to the city, but, you know, at the end of the day, I'm a community member as well. John is too. You know, all of us are. And I look at these projects and what would have the most return on the investment? Because you save 220-some thousand, and that is a lot of money. But at the end of the day, it's more likely, you know, between 180, 185 to bring a project to completion. And out of all of these projects, which one could we see completed, wrapped up with a bow, and just really, finally check it off the list, and not really have it be a phase? And in my opinion, that is the City Hall improvements. That checks the box on public restrooms being open throughout the week and weekend, and making those attractive and accessible. You know, accessibility is absolutely key. And Councilman Rios, you're right, we were built for horse and buggies 100 years ago. And, you know, we want to be inviting to people of all abilities and ages. And City Hall really is that beacon. We have so many people coming in, like Paul always says, the train, it's such a magnet. People come, they enjoy their lunch in the park, use the restroom, out of curiosity, they come into City Hall, and, you know, if they speed through town, they're gonna get a ticket, so they'll come in and pay their ticket. So I think making City Hall just that much more accessible and inviting and safe for all. You know, we've had a couple of staff members have some surgeries this past year, and navigating, getting into the office when you're on a knee scooter or, you know, without the use of one of your legs, it was a huge challenge for a few of us, a couple of us. So I'm partial to this particular one just because of the impact and just it being a completed project. Thank you.
Don, as a member of the community, any comments?
Usually my member of the community or my department director level takes over that part, so I don't have no comments. There's multiple projects I would hope for, but I would defer to mayor and council for this project. I'm in favor of every one of them. Like Linda said, we see the need. We have discussions. I hear, you know, concerns out front from the park to the library. There's just multiple levels of it, and we work on all these sites, and whether it be community center and such. So I think there is a need for every one of these, and I would defer to all of you for that discussion.
Mr. Mayor, Council, again, to staff, anybody here in the room tonight that would like to comment as a member of the public, you live here, you work here, and this is a public hearing, so you have that, have that ability. So feel free.
But you got to have that mic.
I would just close off. Only part is the skate park doesn't qualify. It's usually one of my go-tos, but right now that doesn't.
Right now, so number one does not.
No, the skate park, there's the community center, the upper level, Mayor, and then there's a skate park that's kind of below it. It's just, 'cause I get a lot of requests for upgrading that.
This one's different.
Yes, that's just for the ADA, the sidewalks and stuff, the ramps, and eliminating that troll bridge, I call it. That's not really friendly for anybody to walk across. Yes, into the big Ramada area.
Okay.
Yeah, I just get a lot of requests as far as upgrading our skate park, and that's for another discussion.
Go ahead.
I still like the road building because I work with this area. But any one of these is good. And if we're talking to the city hall, okay, we eliminate the potential of a lawsuit from some big service out there because of the accident. Okay? The doors and the bathrooms, I'll come up tonight, or how we're gonna.
We've done both phases, where, of course, unfortunately, some people will, when they're left open overnight, the vandalism at some point will happen. But in general, I mean, right now, as the evening goes, if we close the bathrooms normally at 5 o'clock when we close City Hall, all the traffic in here outside have no access to any type of bathroom. So we will be leaving those open. We're just gonna be susceptible to any type of vandalism that may happen. That's the nature of our community, the having bathrooms open. But that, around our community center, by the pool, by the soccer field, those are left open 24 hours.
Those are the ones that you showed.
They have, yes.
What was it, the council's, do we want to move all 5 of them? Do we want to eliminate 1 or 2? I don't know. It seems like we don't have to eliminate, we can move forward 5 if we want. Oh, and add if you want.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, question to Angela. Between now and the meeting on the 28th, how would the public go about chiming in on this? What are the methods that are available?
They can't.
Once
this is closed, this is it.
But on the 5?
On the 5, if you wanted them to come, well, they could come to the meeting on the 28th.
Okay, so it would just be for would we lock the 5 in, but with them, they would just have to communicate normally through attending a meeting, email to the council, council@globez.gov, and or text the council phone.
Correct.
So that would be an additional public hearing then on the 28th?
Yes.
Okay, so we really need to advertise that if people have any input on it, it's fine,
Yeah, and that's the one that you'll select one of these to go forward for the funding.
But these 5 have been in the paper?
No,
They will be in the next.
Okay, and then we'll advertise how, the methods, we can put that in the ad in the paper as to how for them to show their preference for the 5 only.
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Council will run
So we don't run this losing any funding if we delay it another 2 weeks.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
We don't lose the opportunity of receiving the funding if we wait another 2 more weeks, do we?
No.
The 2 weeks is open, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Council, the 2 weeks is open. Yeah, we'd always intend to do the 5 and then the 1.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, I think.
John, I have a question for you regarding John, I have a question for you regarding the skate park. Has the city put together a cost estimate to renovate or improve the skate park where it's would it be used after the project, or is it something that's going to be an ongoing
Actually, approximately around a year or so ago, San Carlos actually had a skate park built. And at that time, some of the representatives stopped into the Globe area. We visited with them and talked to them about upgrading their skate park. And around that time, it was roughly almost about $175,000 to upgrade and put some new amenities there. And, you know, the skate park has not been upgraded ever since it was, you know, put in place. So there is improvements that need to be. We've looked at that. Vince has actually been advocating as well, and I had shared with him that information I have. So I do have some contact with the company that actually did the work. They were outside of Texas, and so some of that cost could be upgraded or actually renewed just to see where we're at there to share with all of you. But that's kind of been looked at budget process and enhancements and basketball courts and such in those areas in our CIP process.
So it has the potential of being a complete job with the resources we're looking at right now from CDBG.
Yes.
But it doesn't fall.
Actually, I was just corrected. No, it does.
Yeah, it does qualify. If it's something you want to consider, I would suggest putting it on the list, just so it's an option. Because if it's not on the list, you can't. And when we leave this meeting, a notice will be prepared for the paper, and it will have all the projects in it that are available for comment, and that will run in the next paper as long as we have a deadline for that. But we have to advertise for 16 days prior to the next hearing, so.
And today, we can only walk away with 5.
No, you can walk away with as many as you want. We just like to have 4 or 5 because some of our communities only like to give us 2, and neither of those are eligible for whatever reason. So we just like to have more, but you can only select from the list that you come out with tonight. So if you want something on there, I suggest putting it on there just so it's available as an option.
Well, with that said, thank you. I would like to add the season for
Yeah, so you do the list and then with the include the motion in addition of the 6 items, the skate park improvements.
We do more on a public hearing right now, we'll go to
Is it action, is it vote, or is it direct?
Well, we're still within the public hearing, so we have the motion of the hearing and then the motion.
Okay.
It would be to move it as presented and stipulate the addition. We are expecting a public comment. If we could just wait for a moment.
Well, that said, I retract my motion at this moment.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to also, you know, everybody's talking about skate park. I just noticed, last week, the town road around the skate park too.
Any comments from the audience? Danny, anything?
Nope, I'm good.
And, Steve, let me check this. Email, nothing there.
No, but again, on May 28th, it will be a public hearing and we will allow public comment.
On the 6th.
On the 6th, so we will have another opportunity, and like Angela said, we do advertise the public hearing.
And just a follow-up question, I know we're in a public hearing, if I close the public hearing, there's nothing listed to do a motion to forward this. So I don't know how we.
Yeah, our motion would be to move forward with the list presented by staff and just stipulate the addition of the skate park.
Okay.
It is an action.
Okay. the public hearing? Okay. So close the public hearing, open up our regular meeting again, and then if you wanna make a motion then.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to follow up after the open the public meeting we had just right now. I'd like to move these 5 items listed forward to the next available meeting and add the skate park renovation project to the list as well.
Motion second for approval of the list provided plus the skate park. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstaining, motion passed. Okay.
And then next meeting for the public hearing will be May
May 28th, okay. That's our regular meeting then.
Give us a comment.
Thank you, Angela. Item B is discussion and consideration and invitation for bid IFB number CS-2024-0072 for the Best Begal Building Restoration Project to be funded with grant funding received from Freeport, Mark Moran. Connie.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you and bring this bid invitation, number CS-2024-002772. Pardon me. And then if this is successful with your approval, then our bid date would be April 29th. Let's start. May? Oh.
May 29th.
May 29th. I was in error, it's May 29th.
What's the amount of the grant?
The grant is $160,000.
Mayor, there's no discussion, further discussion? Let's see, motion. Okay, make a motion, consideration, addition, and invitation for bid. Bid IFB number CS 2024-0072 for the Best Begal Building Restoration Project to be funded, to be funded with grant funding received from Freeport McMoran.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of items 5B. And is that that's a motion just to go to bid? Because that's not a move forward for the next meeting, because this is a new business.
This is permission to go to bid, will automatically are required to come back to council to accept the bid. So there's no reason to waive the rule. We'll be doing this again, but it is a vote to approve the action to go to bid.
Okay. So I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item C is council will consider and possibly approve a letter of support for the Arizona Eastern Railroad Company grant application to the Federal Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safe Improvement Grant Project to fund the Arizona Eastern Rail Safety Efficiency and Resiliency Project. Paul.
So, representatives of Arizona Eastern protest they are seeking more money from the federal government to Federal Rail to do improvements to their line. Primarily, as they discussed in our meeting, was to replace wooden trestles with steel trestles, and as they go out mainly between here and as they go east, which would allow them to operate and some other improvements and detail, allow them to operate safely at a higher speed. They're limited by their speed because of the quality of what they have right now. So improve their infrastructure, raise their speeds, also steel trusses don't burn wildfires, and so they're very big on that. And what that would allow is for them to make more runs back and forth, which is to serve the mines, and thereby being able to move more traffic and take traffic, tractor trailers, semi-traffic off of the roads of Globe, off of the 60 and 70, and then make our cities safer.
They didn't hear the training.
Yeah, no, it's, there are partners that have been here as long as we have, and, we're glad that they came to us to ask for this. Again, they're seeking federal money, which is, when we seek federal money like this, taking our taxpayer dollars and bringing it back to Arizona. So it's a good, all the way around. They're asking for us to write a letter of support, which we have drafted, and instead of just, be signed by the mayor, but on behalf of the council. And so there's this economic advantage, safety advantage, and helps the partnership.
So my understanding though, a lot of the improvements will be east. I don't think any are in the city. There'll be some on the reservation on Gila County side, and then all the way into Graham County, going east on there.
I think they've done a lot of work here in the city because it's so important with the population and being so close. But if they can, like say, if they can increase their travel speed, they can increase their load. They're also looking to diversify and get other customers. I think they said about 95% of their client base is the moms, but they'd like to make that bring other on board, and this has allowed them to do that.
Is this the way the rules, or is this?
We'd like to waive the rules, and just because they have a deadline and quickly approaching, and we want to make sure we get this letter into their grant submission. And they offered to be here in person to discuss this, but since we're trying to have a timely meeting, I'll do this sooner.
Well, I hope they remember us in the future as we work with them.
Amazing, we have a meeting with them at 8 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay, keep it up.
It's all about relations.
I'm just going to make a motion to approve the letter of support for Arizona Eastern Railroad grant application for Federal Consolidated Railroad Infrastructure and Safety Improvement Grant Program Fund Eastern Arizona Rail Safety Efficiency and Resiliency Project.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item 5C. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed nay, abstaining, motion passed. Next we go to action items. Item 6A is consideration to approve the emergency declaration due to the partial roof collapse of the Silver King property located at 493 North Broad Street, Globe, Arizona, and the expenditure in the amount not to exceed $25,000 for the emergency shore service provided by Viking Specialty Contracting.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm going to start with the background on this, and if we have any additional questions, we have John here also, and Tom also. As you know, I think it was actually last week, I think the day of First Friday, we had a lot of weather, and our understanding actually from the people next door is the big wind came and down part of it with the Silver King. And so I think that Saturday we got ordered, we checked it out, and yes, indeed, multiple trusses came down, so quickly we got in there, and alerted, Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. They had a preferred vendor that came out, identified that Tuesday or Wednesday, and, helped us get shoring on there. It's important with the roof holds the northmost wall there, and the trusses are still tied to common wall, hold the steel trusses for Earth building, and so it's important that we, in fear of additional weather coming, or additional collapse, that we make sure that we limit the damage. And so we went ahead and approved this preferred vendor to go in there and do the shoring. The shoring is not $25,000. We're asking for $25,000 now, but there's a rental on the shoring. The initial cost is about $14,000, and it depends on how long we get the actual demolition of the building. The good news is our partners at Arizona Department of Environmental Quality are looking to assist us with the cost of the demolition. We could cover a majority of that, if not all of that cost. And as soon as we can get approval, I think it's 3 to 5 weeks, or well, we don't have to wait a time. It's, you know, as soon as we can. So, we'll get them in there, they'll take the roof down, they'll take the north wall down. We knew that the mural was temporary, and that we'll have to either really no way to save that, and then remove the slab and turn it to dirt up to the common wall down from the north wall of the main building. Just for full disclosure, we are the city of Grove owns the Silverton building, and so it have this advantage to get this, which is the council's priority, get this building taken down and then start the redevelopment of the site. But due to the safety, we have closed off the pathway to the stairs, closed off the stairs, just because there's so much going on. That north wall is freestanding at certain portions, and just, we want to make sure that we don't build until we get the whole building down. It's unstable right now, and unsafe to be around here. So, any questions?
So, really part of the building still in place?
No, the common shared wall between Silverton and Earth, the whole process will remove our process, and it will continue, that common wall will continue to hold up the process for the Earth moves, and become the external wall. We'll take the whole, everything, the slab and the wall, front and down, and get that prepped out. And we will be communicating with the owner, communicating with the tenants in the building, will be in the process of communicating with the owner to explain exactly what's going on, where we will be actively moving the building. But time was of the essence, staffing is really quick, and a lot of that's now in place, and that's to make sure the safety.
So the actual demolition of the building is contingent upon getting a contractor to do it?
No, the contractor, we have a contractor lined up. By doing the emergency, we can use this if they are not, if we do not receive the funding from ADQ, we can't leave it the way it is. So it's just a matter of how we fund that.
So we're not sure that we're getting ADQ funding?
No, you can still, you cannot count your chickens until they're hatched, and so we're working on that. We have high hopes. We're in the process of applying, but we have not gotten the award yet.
Okay. But I think it's important because that's a big tourist attraction and open to Arizona. I think the quicker we can expedite it, I think, the better off we're going to be. And we're going to open that up for parking now once we get it down?
Once we're down, I'm going to come back to council and decide how we're going to handle it and what it takes to do that. It'll be a lot harder, and I don't know what that will take to we're not just going to pull the fence down and let people start parking. I think we got to make sure it's done in boardwalk fashion, and at least some type of protection. John, I think this is where we go to you. Connie and Mike, did I do good on that part? Okay.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, as far as securing the site, as Paul already mentioned, we know that there's significant traffic with the Arizona Trail. I've already been contacted by our art group and hoping that we could probably leave some area open. But of course, with the wall, the outside wall there, if that had an issue and actually collapsed, just the debris alone could actually extend the length of that parking lot that we have right there right now. The only access that we do have, we have it chained off, but there actually is a gate. So that's been shared with PD and fire. I got them additional keys. There's a gate there. So like Connie, when she's meeting with contractors or our staff goes there, they'll unlock that gate and swing it open. It's not so obvious as to the regular public because it's not something that we want to encourage them to go through because of the murals. So there's that concern. But once meeting with the contractor, preliminary discussions as far as how much demo they would do, there's an entryway right off Broad Street. They would just be going to the sidewalk area, demoing all that rough area, taking down those steel structured signs that were originally there, part of that. They would be taking that down. The foundation work, The biggest thing is a lot of the concrete. We didn't want to talking about the demo. The scope of work for that would be taking the foundation out. That's a lot of work there. And there's actually even a box culvert that we'll have to do some investigation on that actually goes along that property that we found. We actually, when we were doing the first cleanup of the property, we just thought it was a cap, and once we removed it, there's actually a box culvert that runs through there. I believe it goes into the creek, and it's just been covered up for years. So there's some groundwork that definitely would have to be done. Taking out the foundation, the contractor stated probably be at least a 3 or 4 foot indentation of where the foundation was. But actually, I've already started our crew, start screening dirt in preparation for this demo so we can backfill that area. And then we have millings, like we've done some of the areas, we could actually put some milling for some dust control, and we could do that at that time.
Just a question on, just thinking if it's a delay in demolition, and we're talking 3 to 5 weeks down the road, is there a possibility that you could allow a collapse zone and put the fencing so there's a trail to get to Arizona closer to the creek area? You know, leaving enough area for a collapse zone if something does happen, but chaining it off so they can't have access to that building at all.
Mayor, there would be a significant, on the far side, on the creek side, there is some handrailing there that we could put. We have the fence, temporary fencing that we actually recently acquired for just on house demos. We had that discussion before. We possibly could entertain the fact that we do have the Jersey barriers that we received prior. So you could put a barrier with the Jersey barriers, that way there'd be a fall zone, and then secure that to the far end. That way if any debris, once they're weighted down, you wouldn't have that much push, but that would be, you know, per Luis's recommendation on the engineering side.
Mr. Mayor, Council, the issue is not only people getting into the building, but getting close to that wall, because if the microburst comes and pushes the wall towards the north and it comes down, you need to make sure that people are not in that fall zone. And that makes it that hard to keep that safety sealed off. Even with what we have now, the fact that there's a wall, we're finding evidence of people getting in there and squatters and things like that. So, like I said, I think we'd have to look hard at that. And I think I think that decision should probably be discussed once we get a timeline. And when we know what the timeline is, then we look at that timeline and then we can talk about you know, is it reasonable or do we need to find an alternative path with it? So Mr. Mayor, Members of Council, so yeah, the request is just declaring that the emergency and then the acknowledging the approval of 25,000. If we have to go above that, we'll have time to come back to council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion if there's no other comments or questions. A motion to declare an emergency due to the partial roof collapse of the Silver King property located at 193 North Broad Street in Globe, Arizona, and approve related expenditures in the amount not to exceed $25,000 for emergency shore services provided by Viking Specialty Contractors.
Motion and second for approval of item 6A. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Thank you, John. Item 6D is council discussion and possible consideration to approve a partial payment of retainage to structural preservation system for the City of Globe Community Pool Rehabilitation Contract number CS-2021-0030 in the amount of $125,998.91 to be funded from account line 10-67-52200 Globe Pool Capital Outlay Construction.
Mr. Mayor, with the with winter being over, we got together and started looking at what we needed to do to get the pool ready for the season. We had structural an extensive punch list that we need to get resolved, plus some key issues. We have made great progress on that, and Vince in a second is going to explain some of the where we're at on the pool right now and getting ready for a season, both with the the facility, and we talked, I think, earlier about getting ready with the operations. But the request that we're presenting tonight is to make payment of, or to be $125,998.91 to Structure Out. That will handle some change orders that they have. We'll have about $117,000 left, but we do have a balance on the contract, but we know that balance can go down. We know that there are some what we call reverse change orders. In the agreements we did to make sure that this site was ready for the season, which we opened on May 25th, which would be Memorial Day. But we may have a soft opening prior to that. So we've got some stuff going on. But in order to be ready for that, they allowed us to take care of some projects that we both hired local contractors for and some did ourselves. And so the real team effort has always been the Structure Out. But we have the retainage. We feel comfortable that we're not going to need that because we are so close to completion. We are not paying the full contract off yet because we have to work through these change orders and the lease is still reviewing. I think it's invoice 11 and navigating that to make sure our numbers are right. We believe that the number will go down. There may be between 50 and 75,000 on actual contracts that they need full. If we can't pull them inside the Public Works budget, we may have to come back and get some money from contingency. But we don't know what that amount is. So I'll tell you the possibilities out there, but let us do our homework, and Tina, our budget manager, will provide, like she did with the bridge, she'll provide a memo detailing the costs and how we paid for the whole project and where we are on the budget and how this went. But tonight, in response to the progress we made, really encourage council to approve the $125,000 payment to Structure Out to show good faith and help get this pool wrapped up. We both are hoping to have this fully wrapped up by June and payments made. But Vince I'd like to have Vince explain some of the progress. Vince is very excited about this.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. 2 weeks ago, we came to me and Lisa. We talked to you guys about the pool project, what we've done. Did little updates. The staff lounge is complete now. We have our AC units in there. The city staff, like I said last week or 2 weeks ago, we did a coating on the floor, painted walls, did some texturing on the walls. It looks really nice in there. Started moving in all the lifeguard equipment in there, getting ready for them to come in. The office has an AC unit now, so Lisa's not going to be sweating in there. She's going to be nice and comfortable. We had the handrails, the entry handrails, the middle bar welded in there and painted. All the welds are grinded down real nice. We put in the front gate was painted with a new locking system. The locking system back then was difficult for everybody to manage there, so we had some in-staff engineering go on and it came out perfect there. Some of the things we've done, we poured some concrete slabs, we've done some cool decking repairs. We did some safety railings around the vault entrance. If you guys remember seeing that, it was just kind of just an open pit for a while. Our city staff went in there and built some handrails, guardrails, and handrails down the steps on both sides of the stairway there. We installed a eye wash station. We didn't think about that one. Handling all the chlorine and the muriatic acid, we put in some eye wash stations and showers in there just for safety. Other than that, I think, the bathrooms. We didn't tell you the bathrooms. The Keno Floors came in. They did a remodel on the bathrooms. They tiled the showers from the bottom of the floor all the way back up to the top. That way none of that drywall is going to get blistered from the water and further damage. They did a really great job, and we invite you guys to come out and take a look. You guys have any questions for us? For me? Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. So these improvements you're talking about, were these interest items that Brookfield was responsible for?
Partially responsible for, yeah.
I would say the majority of them are responsible. The other ones are warranty items. So I don't think there's any, we split the cost on the remodeling of the bathrooms because there is some wear and tear and some vandalism, but definitely we needed to have, there was some deficiencies and warranty concerns, and so we just determined that we were going to share that cost, and that, I think that cost came out about $21,000, and we'll split that 50-50 with Structural. They'll do reverse change order for that half, and I think that was fair. But the rest of it, the concrete, some of the concrete slabs heaved, and they took care of that. But I think the majority of it, other than the bathroom, was punchless. The air conditionings were punchless. The gates, the railings, the stairs, all that was punchless. And so, and I can get you a copy, and I can share that with council as to what actually was accomplished and what's left to be accomplished. There's and then a lot of troubleshooting some of the mechanical stuff.
Yeah, so, and this is the reason why, and I understand the intent very well, and what the purpose is. We withhold money for work that was not completed, that they were under contract.
Yeah.
But we're also putting in our forces and our resources and our manpower.
We're saving costs. I guess my ultimate question is $125,998.91 worth the value of what they were responsible for.
And I think that's what we're going to do, right? The reverse change orders is our costs.
Well, I think the way the question would be, and I'm just going to rephrase the question, that $125,000 was held in lieu of if we had to make these repairs ourselves. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I think we still have $100,000 that are owed, that may come down a little bit, but for what is remaining on the punch list, I think that money would cover if they were to, whatever happened, they walk away right now and they weren't going to finish anything else, we definitely have the money to cover us doing out of pocket what's left.
Well, I understand that, but we're paying $125,000 for work that they should have done in the beginning, right?
Well, they didn't,
right? That they didn't do, but then because unless there's a different type of retainage mechanism that the city contracted with the structure on.
We asked them to step back and do a lot of this after the season, so we can get our season over and then come back. And so the break in progress, I mean, we had a partnership to get that pool open in time for the last season. And so we put up, like the air conditioners, we put those on hiatus because we wanted to get that open. And some of the tile and some of the other things became a time issue. And so we're partially responsible for those punch lists taking so long.
I'm still confused. Okay. I get we pushed them out. Okay, because we wanted to get the full start. But were they originally responsible for that work?
Yeah.
Yes. And it didn't get done. It didn't get done because we pushed them out. But now I'm hearing that we're inserting ourselves into doing some of the work.
In order, because it was probably easier and we could be more responsive and we had in-house staff do it rather than, I mean, we still have supply chain issues, we still have trouble getting vendors, hence people from Tucson come up here to do railing. We tried to buy out when we can just do the railing ourselves.
So there should not be a reduction in cost?
That is going to be added, and those are the negative change orders. Doing the railing, there's the splitting the cost of the bathrooms, and I'm not fully describing it, but no, we have a list of change orders. Anything we did, we're billing out of the rate.
Okay, so we'll get recovered for the rate. Okay. All right, I feel a little better.
Yeah, no, this is why I tell you that's my
Yeah. I just had a question. There's already a record there?
Yeah. There was.
It's not even your fault.
I know. They sampled with different mixtures, and they're finally getting it right towards the end, but the stuff that they started with kind of flaked out and fell apart. But our staff, we figured it out. We mixed it up and laid it last week, Thursday, I think it was Thursday. Yeah. Come out, take a look. Yeah.
No, but if we do the repairs, then we will bill.
No, I'm just curious, if you put a brand new pool, you expect the pool to last more than, what, a year?
No, I mean, but it is not that the entire pool will fail, but there's chipping on the seams, I think, and I think that's still on the list to be taken care of, but I think it's minor. I mean, if you go out there, you will see pool decking. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this goes back. Yeah, I mean, this goes back to the wall and the stucco job that was done on the lounge, and that was redone and it looks much nicer. Doesn't need a new one. So, but no, I mean, we paid good money and we deserve a quality project and product, and I think we're working towards that to make sure that happens. But I think we made significant gains on that, and I think it's fair to make partial payment since they're more than 50% through the punch list, and we're still not. We still have sufficient payments to cover the remaining items.
And that's
The 125 part of the contract that we had already appropriated for funding put away. Okay.
just hold it.
Yeah, we sat on that for a while, and it worked.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no possible questions, I motion to approve partial payment of retainage to structural preservation systems for the City of Willow Community Pool Rehabilitation Contract number CS 2021-0030, in the amount of $125,998.91 to be funded from account line item 10-67-52200, low pool capital construction.
Motion and second for approval of item 6B. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any opposed? Abstaining? Motion passed. Item 6C. Consideration to approve recommendations to award Globe City Council nonprofit program funding to various applicants that submitted applications for fiscal year 24 for the $15,000 funded through account number 10-66-51408- General Fund Economic Development Department.
Mr. Mayor, Members of Council, we had budgeted the $15,000 for our traditional nonprofit award grant. We put an RFP out and received, was it 7 applications based on a criteria of what benefits the region. We looked at all of those and they've been in the packet. In vetting those, initial vetting discussions, we come up with a proposed recommendation at least to start with the discussion, so that you can, we looked at everything, we got some feedback from the Quality of Life subcommittee, and they help kind of discuss these and do some pre-discussion on that. I'd like to start by sharing with you what I am recommending based on the feedback from that work group, and then you join in the discussion and you can change it all up, you can accept it and modify it as you please, and freedom to talk or discuss what went into why I recommend what I'm recommending. And so if you have this, I think we passed out this list that we have initial request for $1,500 dollars for the, it would be, the Gila County, Gun Club. Yeah, and then, we recommended, the recommendation came back that, we would not fund that, just because of the nature, it's more of a club activity, and then the benefit is limited. Salvation Army, requested $2,000, and I won't go through the need, I'll just talk about the units. 2,000, and I'm recommending a 2,000 full award of $2,000. The food bank, in the discussion, during the discussion, we were notified that they had significant funds and withdrew their application. And so we're recommending no funding for the food bank. The homeless coalition, they requested $2,000, and they were recommending a full fund of $2,000. The Center for the Arts was looking for $5,000, and given the limited amount of money, we are recommending a $2,500 grant for them. The Globe High School class reunion, they are, we're asking for $5,000. I think again, the reunion is kind of like the gun club. It's not more so much about human services benefit as it is a non-profit that serves a certain group. But we did recommend $500 to the high school, the reunion club, or group. Gila House, we had funded, standalone funding last time. We looped that in here. They were looking for $17,280. We checked with them. They did take a partial payment. And so the majority of that money is not quite 50%, so we're recommending $8,000 for Gila House. And then we did full funding on 2, partial funding on 2, and then the remaining going to Gila House. So that is the city manager's recommendation, the starting point for the council, based on feedback on the work group.
Can we hear from the work group that was involved in that and they considered as a talking point?
Yeah, I was on that. I was throwing into the fray on that one. But, the discussion is very interesting. The pointing out of the was an interesting discussion. There are things about amenities you have to remember. What's an amenity? What is the big thing for the buck? And all of them are worthy, but we were really looking at trying to help. I understand we don't normally address because we don't have that statutory authority. So amenities include helping the poor, the destitute, and so all those discussions were worthy discussions. And what we ended up is trying to help distribute to the poor and to those people who have a greater need. It would have been nice to give a lot of money to High School Globe. I was critiqued because I was from Miami and I wasn't pushing for it. But the point being, theirs was not a greater good. It was not a greater good. It was an amenity. And I had my own comments about that, but not because I was from Miami, but because it didn't address the greater good. And that's what we came out on the final distribution. I think we tried to be as fair as we could, and I think it reflects what we wanted to do is help everyone as much as possible who have that need. So it was a good discussion as we went through all of them. And in some cases, they were asking for money that they were already doing the work, receiving funding in some fashion or another. So we weren't really, we could place the money elsewhere. So that was the final summation on the distribution. But you know, as council, you can all have that discussion as well. But it took us a good few hours working with department heads to get through this.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I think one of the comments I think made by Councilman Shipley was if you're comparing the gun club needs versus homeless needs, you have to put a priority on those types that are helping people in need. I think the other one that was the most interesting was the Cobra Valley Center for the Arts. But I think the message has been that they should diversify their funding base and seek money, other sources of money, and I think everybody was like, hey, that's...
Do we know what the project was? Was it the Center for the Arts? I didn't look at that.
That's exactly what I think. Yeah, I want to get any more.
You know, and this is just where we ended up at. I'll let you look into that.
Well, they have projects too, you know.
Yeah, and it's...
I don't know.
John, I think John has some comments on what the ask was for the Center for the Arts.
Well, that'd be great, yeah.
Mayor and council, I sat in on the meeting as well. One of the requests was on that discussion was one of the floor level rooms. They wanted to do some enhancements and some cleanup. That way they could have shared space or actually rentable space for additional funding, you know, that they can rent that out for different events. And that was just kind of basically we work in that room. The concern was actually, the discussion also was, what was the plan for the room, how much enhancement, whether it be electrical, construction, that if this dollar amount would even cover that cost, if it'd be just partial or so. That's where the discussion was.
Thank you. Caesars is looking for capital improvement funds rather than operational costs. I think the bed tax money is the primary operational. John, thank you for helping.
Thank you, John.
I mean, just to comment on the food bank, and because I don't want people thinking that we didn't think of giving the money to the food bank, but the state gave them $250,000 in appropriations in their last signage of the governors when also the other one with the Boys and Girls Club of this area that got $250,000 too, so we need to be aware of that when they come for us for funding. Those appropriations were signed passed to the state. So.
And that was, I think, Representative Cook worked with those and bully for him for helping out. I did get a text from Linda. I think the specific needs of the food bank changed also from what they had initially asked. They have that covered now. But they were very respectful and stand up to say, hey, we're good. We're going to withdraw our request. So.
I guess my only comment too on that is that, and not because I'm from Miami, but I don't know how that is a request. I mean, when they have a reunion, don't they raise money to the people that go? And I just have a hard time with, you know, giving a group or a reunion group money, whether it's Miami or Globe. You know, I think.
They do.
I mean, there's more needy.
Yeah. No, and I don't particularly remember where they came up. I think there was a discussion about something, you know, just a 10% sponsorship is what we're looking at, you know, but that's my feedback and my recommendation to you. You easily can move those numbers around. It's very simple. You know, you can take that and move. You'll know how close it is.
Anybody else?
I have a question. What, I'd like to know this, the Pima House's mission is to house homeless, or is it
domestic violence.
I just want to make sure that Pima House homeless are not providing the same service.
I thought that was called the Alderman House.
One of them, yes.
That's the Alderman House. And I think they also house people that are, like if they're burned out of their home because of structure fire, so they can have access to those homes.
And I know that Keith Walters is a member of your house, also Debbie Cox, and I think Mickey and I. They do. Temporary housing for displaced people. And it's regional, it's not limited to city road, but that's a regional benefit.
And Homeless Coalition is,
Jim Gonzalez, solely volunteer.
I think we should move the opportunity to this. First person, okay? I mean, I have a hard time with that one, but I'm just one vote, so you guys can vote me down.
Their request was for 2,000, and we're fully funding.
Yeah, that's fully funded.
Yeah, almost fully funded.
And then you explained the Center for the Arts.
Yeah.
It wasn't for.
No, it wasn't for operations.
For operations, it was for something else.
I appreciate the committee's time.
Yeah.
Success and passion and stuff. I understand the position we're in right now with the tax applications and those ongoing conversations. But being part of the Center for the Arts as a liaison, I have had opportunities to go to that early and see how capital work. They do renovate and they do offer other buildings for rent, so they do good jobs now making those contracts with small business owners. Well, I'll tell you what, the non-box actually started with this. And they grew, so they grew so much that they got down and didn't even know. So, it is, I think that the center is making an effort to create better for the building. Keep in mind, this old historical 1980s facility, 8 floors, they do hold signature events there. Casino Royale is going to be bigger and bigger. I've seen some images of some of our local city staff partaking in the costume dress up and things like that. Yes. I see what's doing right here. So I would, because this is a capital improvement and not based on managing the land and staffing. I would understand people government and to create all the efforts in the meetings. My position with the centers.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, and Linda is chiming in saying that, by allowing them to improve their facilities, it offers them more revenue options, which is what we're seeking. Yeah. She's stealing from me again. Yeah. Great minds think alike.
Go ahead.
If there's no questions, I have no question. The two groups will not talk about money, and the amounts, the request to be determined by council or a total of $50,000, something under statistics, by the local wage, with the amount of development.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, just to be clear that straight up as is with the 500 and the low price bowl being.
We had a motion and a second. We can in discussion, yeah. We had a motion and a second. So we have a motion and a second for approval of item 6C. Now we'll open it up for any further discussion.
I'm sorry, I made a comment about providing the organization
We use
Yeah, I think I have a hard time approving a $500 payment to a reunion when there's so much other needs in this other list, but that's my comment.
Well, and you can always modify your motion, or request the motion to be modified. Yeah, I think, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Stapleton, I think if you follow the pattern, our goal was to at least partially fund at least 50%, those that we couldn't fully fund. We did partially 50% funding to the Center for the Arts. If you move the 500 to the Gila House, you would get very close to 50% funding of Gila House. I think it'd be about 8,750 would be 50% funding. I mean, I can't do the math in my head. Yeah, you'd be a couple pennies short, yes, but they're very appreciative of anything that we can do. So. You'd be.
I know we do. I have to admit, I'm a member of the Miami High School Alumni Committee, and we raise all funding for everything. Yeah. We wouldn't go to the county and ask for the it's based on individual participation. And, we have a committee, and we do a lot of,
Are they? We're talking about non-profit organizations. Is this representation of non-profit?
I think Linda might know. She's texting me if they're whether they're She said the Alumni Association is a nonprofit. She's saying that the Union Group is using the funds for the Festive Parade float, which promotes and markets Globe. So I think there's a value in its marketing funding, not necessarily Health and Human Services, but it's marketing for the region. So, and then if you were to move the
Right. Yeah, the greater good.
If you were to move the 500 to Gila House, they would be $160 short of 50% funding. But I don't have the extra 160. I mean, technically you could, council, you could, motion to make it 50%. I think they would lose sleep over it.
they would be happy to be short.
Yeah, they're happy.
Yeah. As long as it doesn't set a precedent for the precedent for the next time we go west.
You're gonna take that.
In Mr. Mayor, members of council, it could be that the Globe, the union should go after marketing funds rather than nonprofit health and human service fund.
So they wanted 5,000?
No, they wanted 5,000.
That's what I'm saying, they wanted it.
Yeah. Well,
to build a float.
we're coaching people to be more aggressive in their fundraising, so I don't think we should, they're being aggressive. It's like more power to them. And I will note that no one from any of these groups.
I was going to say, whatever you guys suggested, you made it.
Yeah, we wrestled with it, and I think it was a good discussion across the board at that subcommittee meeting.
So the current motion is the city manager's suggested distribution as it stands. And so we can either, mayor call for the vote, or if anyone wants to request a modification of the motion.
Mariano said it in the meeting. Mariano, this is good.
Yes, we supported that, and that's how it was delivered to the mayor.
Okay.
I'm sorry, to the city manager.
The motion's already been made.
We got a motion second, and discussion on it. Okay, well, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passed.
Thank you. Linda, thank you.
Yeah. There's
slam dunk.
Got you off the hook.
Item D is consideration possible award contract number CS-2024-0064 to Salts Contracting LLC in the amount of $744,762.34, which includes a contingency amount of $97,142.92 for the 4th Street and Daybreak Water Line project, with funds to come from the account 50-80-54005 grant-funded capital outlay and 50-80-51425 securing future water to be submitted to the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority for reimbursement through the Water Conservation Grant GF 24-80-05031.
Our city engineer has no PowerPoint on.
No. This is going to be a really short one, Mr. Major, members of council. Back in, it was on February 13th, we came to you to ask for authorization to put these two projects out for bid. It is actually combining to one project, so we could get one contractor and not paying like, 2 months and, have some savings there. It went out for bid, and we received 5 bids. We had 2 pre-bid meetings, and the bid opening will happen on April the 10th, and Schultz is the lowest responsible bidder. We had, as I said, 5 bids, and we also got some recommendations from other cities that have worked with them, and they have good reputation, so we feel comfortable in awarding this project to them, and that's why we are here tonight to ask you, to award this contract to Schultz.
If the contract's issued, approved, when do we get started?
The construction, you mean? Well, after we award and we sign the contract, there is also some supply chain problems, and they will have to order some parts. They don't know exactly how long that's going to take, but we are estimating 90 days to complete both projects. So, yes. So that's how we have it stipulated. Hopefully, they get the parts they need on time, so we can stay on schedule.
And these lines go through private property right now?
Actually, Daybreak is a water line that goes through certain properties. It is hard to access those lines when they have leaks, and now we're going to move them out of the properties. We're going to put them on the road. So that's one of the reasons why, for Daybreak. And 4th Street it's a water line that it's always giving us problems, so it needs to be replaced.
Louise, on Daybreak, part of that area is in the county. Is
Yes.
our water lines in the county also?
The water line is, yeah, it is in the county, but it's in our water system.
It's in our water, it's in the county, so that's part of the line we're replacing.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Now that's a step. Anybody want to make it? I'll definitely in on this.
Make a motion, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to award contract number CS-2024-0064 to Schultz Contracting LLC in the amount of $744,762.34, which includes a contingency amount of $97,142.92 for the Fourth Street and Daybreak Water Project, with funds to come from account number 50-80-54005, grant funded capital outlay, and 50-80-51425, securing future water to be submitted to the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority for reimbursement through the Water Conservation Grant number GF-24-80-05031.
Second.
That's with it, right?
Yes, with conservation though. And Mr. Mayor, members of council, just point out that it's good to see we had 5 contractors competing for this.
Yeah.
2 years ago, we'd have 2 and they were both, double what we thought. So,
It's good to know.
the swing of the pendulum.
We have motion second for approval of item 6D. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you, Luis. I have number 7, late agenda item 7A is council will discuss and possibly approve a request by staff to purchase and install a pivot air breathing air compressor for municipal emergency service in the amount of $43,665.76 to be funded from account 10-56-52000 capital outlay equipment fire department, and to transfer $45,000 from the account number 10-55-53000 contingency undesignated.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, before Chief Robinson begins, this is real important. He alerted me about a month ago that this compressor was failing, and it was real important that we have this up and running to supply breathing air. And so did the due diligence, get the quotes, and that's why we're bringing it on late. But it's an important item, and I didn't want to make it wait any longer than absolutely necessary for the discussion and possible. Gary, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, council members, like Paul mentioned, about 3 weeks ago to a month ago, we experienced a significant failure in some electrical components on our breathing air compressor. The function of that compressor is to provide breathing air that we then use to fill our self-contained breathing apparatus. Those bottles that we fill, that we wear into any type of environment that's immediately dangerous to our life and health, are critical to the mission that the fire department has. Over the course of the last about 2 years, we have had the only functioning breathing air compressor in the area. Slowly, that's changing, but we're still currently reliant on outside sources as things exist right now to go out and find that. We've made arrangements with both Tonto Basin, with some departments in the East Valley. In the event that we need to fill bottles, we can go to them and do that. But looking towards the future as we look for a new station, this was going to be an item that was going to be incorporated into that build and into the equipment that would go into that, because the one we have currently we've had for a significant amount of time. That as we went to try and get repairs done to that, we found that a lot of the components within that are obsolete. So we tried 2 different times to get the correct part that we felt was malfunctioning, and have failed both times. With that, we started looking into what would it take to get a compressor. We looked at different models. We had the opportunity with some staff in the Fire Department Instructors Conference that has a large expo for fire department equipment to review and look at different compressors that are on the market. When we looked at a number of issues related to ease of use, related to what's available as we look towards the future for the new fire station equipment that would be added onto this. Because along with this compressor, we also add in a fill station that you put the bottles into that then allows us to fill those. We looked at all those different things. When we came out, in terms of the quality of the equipment, the use of the equipment, the lead times on how long it will take us to get this equipment in, we did settle on a request to make a purchase of a Pivot Air system. That system, we felt had, the high level of quality that we're after. We can take that and adapt it easily into and move it into a new station once that new station is built, and with the goal of getting another 15 to 20 years out of that piece of equipment. One of the things that we look at also is, we want to have redundancy in our system. We want to be able to do that, and we haven't had that because we've been the only supplier of breathing air for a while. With that request, our hope is that as we go forward tonight, you'll approve that transfer and purchase and allow us to get that ball rolling. We have approximately about a 4-week lead time. That doesn't include some time that they will come in, and they'll actually come in and look at the site and make sure that what they are providing meets the requirement. There's a couple of different things in terms of electrical requirements that we'll have to make sure are in place, but we're pretty confident we have what we need there now to be able to move forward with the system. Are there any questions for?
So you'll use this apparatus to support the other fire districts?
We make, as we've always done, we've made ours available to San Carlos. Over the last couple of years, we've made ours available to Tri-City when they needed support. Theirs is mutually available to us once their system is up and running, so we have that redundancy in there. We can continue to supply. With our current system, we have a fill station. We actually have 2 fill stations that are both in fairly good condition currently. So we weren't seeking to replace that component as of right now, but the breathing air compressor is where we're, without that, we're kind of stuck.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Tri-City has no compressor in their.
No, they're in the process of trying to fund one through their budgetary process as well, but they haven't had one. Tonto Basins was down briefly. They were able to get it back up and running. I think San Carlos is in the process of installations in theirs. People are slowly getting back, but as was discussed previously, supply chain stuff, those type of things, there was a lot of challenges in getting that equipment in a timely manner, let alone, it is a fairly significant budget item when it comes to.
Well, it's a must needed. You can't go without it. I mean, yeah, you can fill it somewhere else, but it's truly a big inconvenience to have to. It's nice to come back and fill your own bottles or have that capability within your own system. So it's definitely needed.
Well, and especially when we have large incidents. I mean, we've had a number of fires recently where we've had to bring bottles back and top bottles off at the station to make sure we can continue to operate. So. This is a unit that's installed in the station. It has to be, we send out samples on a quarterly basis every year to get back certification that that is putting out quality air that's breathable, that's not contaminated in any way, shape, or form. This is a new unit.
So, Gary, this will last us X amount of years, and you'll be moving it to the new fire station, or we're gonna buy another new one when we get the new fire station?
No, this would move. Yeah, it's anticipated. It's anticipated that this would last. Last a number of years. The portion that we would seek to replace eventually with that move is the other component to this. So you have the compressor side and you have the fill side. We're only seeking to replace the compressor side right now. The fill side is another component to it.
And you'll be able to take the field side with you, or we'll put another field side?
The fill side is what we would look to replace once the station is built. When we look at the equipment list for the new station, the compressor side would move.
Mr. Mayor, Members of Council, Gary, the fill side is much less expensive, though.
No. They're about. Yeah, I didn't want you to look at that quote. They're about equal. We have, like I said, we have 2 fill stations currently. We had a mobile fill station and we had a stationary fill station. We have one set aside currently. Both of those are operational and functional. Ultimately, they will need to be replaced because they do have a lifespan because it's an explosion-proof container. So when you're filling those bottles, in the event you do have a bottle failure, it's contained within that unit. And that's a requirement when you're filling SCBA's. So. The size of a unit like this is about this podium, approximately. A little bit bigger, but they are a good size compressor. It's a 6,000. The unit we're looking for is a 10 horsepower compressor. It's 4-stage, goes up to 6,000 psi. Part of what we looked at in looking at at different compressors was how they go through the stages to build that pressure. The unit that we selected actually has, some units have 2 pistons that cycle both ways. This actually has 4 separate pistons that are each oiled separately, that are each cooled separately. That I think there's some quality built into that system that makes it a solid choice when you're looking at it.
Paul, on your wording here is undesignated, that means restricted fund balance.
Right, and that's just a line in the budget. It's the 2.4 million. It has come out of fund balance. We don't have that internally in the fire department. But it like I say, it does lessen by 30 to 40,000 the total cost of the upfitting and of the new fire station because it is transferable. There'll be a slight cost in the relocation of the equipment. That's about it. And now the fill stations. We would have to buy those anyway.
Oh, there's your train.
Yeah.
You're done, yeah. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to motion to request by staff to purchase and install a Clivet air compressor for Municipal Emergency Services, MES, in the amount of $43,665.76 to be funded from account number 10-56-52000, capital outlay equipment, fire department, and the transfer of $45,000 from account number 10-55-53000, contingency undesignated administrative to account number 10-56-52000, capital outlay equipment, fire department, and wage section 2-4-10, fire discussion roll. Second.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, you're doing 2 actions. You're moving the money from contingency to the department line item, spending out of that, and that because we cannot fund straight out of the contingency line item.
Okay. We have motion and second for approval of late agenda item 7A. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you.
Mayor and council, thank you.
We have our second call to the public. Do we have anybody online or we're scheduling the meetings. We have possible meeting Thursday, is that May 2nd, 2024?
Right. And the schedule for that, we have some budgetary items that we wanted to run by council, and then we may have some public works items that we can go on there. If it becomes clear that we can cancel that, we will. But the mayor had hoped to make this a shorter meeting, and I was hoping to split the agenda items, but we did a horrible job of splitting it up. So, but yeah,
A little bit longer.
there's 3 weeks between this one and the meeting in May because of the extra the fifth Tuesday and
I was gonna say, the next regular meeting isn't until May 28th?
no, the
14th.
14th.
Oh, it's a glitch. I was gonna say, wow, we got a month off?
No, May 14th.
So the meeting on May 2nd is at what time?
3 to 5, but you can adjust that if you want to. Because I know that Councilman Stapleton likes to. Yes.
May 2nd.
The May 2nd one, I will forum.
Okay. Well, and like I say, we lock this in. If we have to move it or push it, we can do that. We'll make, we got so much done here, but I just, my spidey sense say I should lock in a meeting just. And we do have some things in the budget we can knock off.
Work group report, quality of life, we have any, or we already discussed what they did?
Most of the quality of life was the review of the nonprofit expenditures, and so we talked about that. And then Mayor, I don't know if anybody had any questions for the special bed tax group that wasn't there.
We have a meeting scheduled, we have another one scheduled for May. We did invite the group to come on the May 14th meeting there'll be a marketing presentation by our development service group. So we got that. What else? Anything else to report?
Yeah, I mean, just, I think it's, moving in the right direction. I think it's, we're getting to the point where, everybody's getting a good understanding of their position and cities.
Yeah, we've actually come a long way from, two meetings ago. So everything's going actually really well. So.
And Mr. Council, I will add that I think council made a good call 2 weeks ago when they chose not to change the funding mechanism, that we had that debate, and they're like, no, we're in the process of meeting, and so we kept the splits the way they were, and I think that was, I think that worked out better to continue the process, because transparency and giving them the heads up is key, one of their key requests, and we honor that.
Yeah, because I think if we'd have went with what they said at the council meeting, there was like two groups represented, but when we got in the meeting, they were all 5 there and decided to stay with the same distribution percentages for now.
Well, I think it's also important to add that, there's a mutual understanding that, we have our budget cycle coming up in June. We're resolve whatever conversation we have on that.
Good deal. Consideration future agenda items, anybody?
I know we have some issues pending. One of them being the MOU with Arizona Water. And I can think of a couple, but we're trying to get, like I say, there's so many things that that we're trying to get going, we're trying to prioritize.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you for sticking it out.